Hello and welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Ritchie. I'm the founder of Senior Savvy, and you can find me here every Tuesday interviewing people who are involved and engaged in the age tech space. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I've got a great guest lined up for you. But first, let me go ahead and intro our show. Hello and welcome back. I want to go ahead and introduce my guest today. I've got Laura Mitchell from GrandCare Systems. Hi, Laura. Welcome to Tech Tuesday.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Now, we are expecting someone else, so we'll see if she does appear. So we'll be thrilled to have her. In the meantime, I'm really happy to have Laura with me. Laura, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself and tell us what you do with GrandCare, please?
Sure. Yes. So I'm Laura Mitchell. I'm the CEO of GrandCare Systems. I have been with GrandCare. I'm one of the founding members off and on for 16 years. So been doing this kind of a long time. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be a part of this show today. And we have been sort of beating the drum of trying to get technology infused into the aging services market. So really excited.
Great, great. Well, I see that we have Nora with us as well. So, Nora, let me bring you on and have you come and join us as well. Hello, Nora.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, great, great. Let me see if I can get us all situated. There you go. You made it. Welcome.
A nail biter.
Tuesday without some technical issues. So, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. And Nora, would you introduce yourself as well, please?
Yes, I'm the director of EverHome Care Advisors, and we are a private aging life care coordinator, care manager, LLC, and our goal is to help older adults use technology to stay independent in their own homes, whether that's senior living, their own individual home, or any other arrangements that they have, like a group home or something like that.
Well, a lot of the folks that watch Tech Tuesday are senior living operators. So if we can focus on how GrandCare Systems helps senior living operators, let's do that. And so if you could tell us, how is GrandCare supporting those people in senior living? Let's start right there.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I see for seniors in senior living is the ability to connect with each other and the ability for the facilities to connect using a community calendar. A lot of times people have their own individual apartments, but you can be alone in a crowd. What's important is getting seniors out and meeting other seniors and connecting them through activities and different events. And this is really, I see, a game changer in this is very easy to use technology. I have a 93-year-old who's never touched technology in her life, and she absolutely loves using this because, she can connect with her family, she can connect with her friends. So in looking in the senior living environment, it's an opportunity to pull people together and teach them how to be more proactive in getting involved. And, we all learned from the COVID pandemic how disconnected seniors were and how they were isolated and depressed and lonely. So this really helps with that. The other piece is,
let me interrupt you for just 1 second. Tell me about this 93-year-old, because those are my people, all right? And I want to know, when she's looking at this calendar, is she going on her computer? Is she going on her phone? Is she on a tablet? Tell me about that.
She goes on her computer. She can have we kind of refer to it as a wellness center. So
Okay.
she can get up and it reminds her to take her medications.
Mhm.
It allows her to check in and does she have any appointments today on her calendar. She can see what's going on in the community, and what activities she wants to go to, so she can alert and remind her. She said, well, sometimes I forget my medicine. So the reminder is really key to her. People have the best intention. They get their activities all set and they're going to go, and then something comes up or they forget. So it helps her to be connected to the rest of the community.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is great is seniors love to share pictures of their grandkids and events that have happened. And her daughter recently went on a month visit to Italy. And she said, I felt like I was in Italy with her because every day she was sending me new pictures and that. And it gave her, some opportunity to talk to other people about Italy, and experiences like that. So it's those small things that connect people.
Yes.
And if I can clarify too, that what she's talking about by the computer, it's not a traditional computer. It's the GrandCare system is a touch screen that is in her home. And so she doesn't need to know anything about computers or tablets or do anything. It's an appliance that is always there, always available, always on, with a remarkably easy user interface. And so what the GrandCare system is like, it's just like a moving picture album. It's got pictures from family, communications, calendar events, the weather reports, news headlines, quotes, jokes, things like that, medication reminders and whatnot. And that is just always available to them. They can touch the touch screen at any time, and then they get a menu of options. So they can request and order services. They can see what's on their daily schedule. They can see what's coming up. They can see, oh, here are the tasks that I need to complete today. And they can also take a look through their photo albums, or they can send messages to family and friends.
And is it something that family members can send those pictures to?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So there's an app, or they can log in with their computers and they can upload photos. They can send messages. They can add calendar events, birthdays, things like that. But they can also, there's another aspect of GrandCare, which is telehealth monitoring and activity monitoring. And so the activity monitoring isn't used so often in senior housing. That's more in private home scenarios that they use that to notify someone if someone didn't get out of bed, or if they didn't access the fridge at mealtime, or if they didn't, do a particular ADL, or, if there was too much activity in the bathroom in the middle of the night, that kind of stuff. But they do use it in senior housing sometimes if the door doesn't open when they're supposed to have gone to a meal. The most utilized, I think one of the things I want to drive home about senior housing is that GrandCare is designed for two things in senior housing, and that is to build community and to make staff more efficient. So those two things have been really, the way that they build community is that they enable they send flyers and messages and community calendar events, and they allow people to RSVP on the touchscreens, and they also send messages to committees and book clubs. And so they can send group messages to the fishermen and to the car club and to the poker club, and it only goes to those touchscreens. But probably the most popular aspect of GrandCare in senior housing is the resident directory.
Okay.
That is a way, especially if someone just moved in and they're saying, I met a guy named John down at the coffee shop, but I can't remember, I don't know anything more about him. So they can search the resident directory for John, and they can see, okay, the pictures of the folks, and they can see where they reside, as well as as well as their interests, their birthday, things like that. And then they can message and video chat directly touchscreen to touchscreen. So that can be helpful for friends, but it also can be helpful for spouses on different levels in the community, in the continuum of care.
Yeah, I love that feature, to be able to look up a bio and, to understand more about what their interests are and where they lived before they moved in, for instance. Now, you've mentioned a lot about the touchscreen, and one thing I want to ask you about. So is this fixed? Is it a fixed unit? Is it like is it attached to the wall?
It can be. An often case, just like behind me, a picture would be in my kitchen. It is fixed on the wall so that, and I use it for my family. So my kids know when events are going on, we use it for asthma medication for my son. So he has to check off and say that he's taken his medications and things like that. Also, it gives you news headlines. You can watch YouTube videos, things like that are on the system. But oftentimes it might just be on a countertop. I don't know. Nora probably knows where her clients keep theirs.
We have one that has put it on the wall, like you suggested, and because she had a tendency to drop things, and we were afraid it was going to break. But it's pretty very durable, and she has it fixed on the wall. And most have it in the area that they, like where they sit in their recliner, and that, so it's right next to them.
What they say these days is that residents are moving into communities with anywhere from 5 to 12 devices per person. So let's just say that I love using my iPad or I love using my laptop. Do I have to then use an additional device as for GrandCare, or can I, adapt it to something I'm already using?
So GrandCare is a dedicated device, much like your Alexa. You wouldn't use it on a different device. It is. There are ways to log into GrandCare, but GrandCare is its own device. It is a medical device in addition to an entertainment device. Okay. So it is in the same way that you have multiple devices to heat up food. You're going to have your oven and your stove and your microwave and your air fryer and your Instant Pot, but all of them have different sort of utilization cases. So GrandCare is really all about building that community, but also it's about, sort of making staff more efficient by actually one of our communities in Colorado, they use the check-in button religiously. So all of the residents are prompted to check in the morning. And, you can imagine when you have 600 residents, that can save a lot of footsteps if you're having them just check in and just checking in on the 20 that didn't. So that is a huge feature that they sometimes use multiple times a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Staffing and workforce is such a huge need and a huge topic these days, just knowing that there are ways that these type of tasks can be automated, right?
Right. I think one of the things is, especially in our area in the Northeast, there's staffing shortages all over the place. But what this really does, I see, is that it helps reduce the stress and people can be more efficient and more purposeful in how they're going to spend their time. And think of a lot of the senior housing and senior living facilities, they do have an aide, but they have an aide that is shared, for people that they need to go in and check on them. This helps them be much more efficient and to stay in touch with family, because, family can be a great support in helping to keep that older adult age in place. And what we hear every day is older adults don't want to be in a nursing home. They want to be in independent living, and they want to be surrounded by their peers. So this really, families really jump on board because this is their way of checking in with them daily. And it doesn't matter where they are. As we say, that one woman who went away for a month, she said, it gave me great peace of mind.
Yeah, I love this comment from Christine. Thank you. Efficiency, safety, all important when there are plenty of staff, and peace of mind for all who care and rely on others, for sure. Thank you.
And I would just add that a lot of times it's really great to in addition to, making staff more efficient, to allow people, the thing that's most disruptive is when people have to move, right?
Right.
So allow them to stay in that, wherever they are in the continuum of care for longer. So if they can stay in independent living with some assist, if they can stay in assisted living with some assist, and again, the family can be so helpful and they want to be, but they don't live there. But, with GrandCare, it really gives them a window into what's happening. We've had so many folks also when mom moved into memory care, where they were actively playing a role, even though she was not as engaged in her own health at that point. But the son would actively play a role and be video chatting in, and you can drop in on video chat as well. And so he would be able to drop in when the aides were there and talk to them daily about how things were going. And it wasn't taking extra time. The aides were already in the room. He could tell with motion sensors when they were coming into the room. And so it not only allowed for a little bit more transparency, as a lot of senior housing communities talk about this, they want to have more transparency and allow families to participate and engage without being a barrier, right? So when families calling the front desk every day for hours and hours and hours, that is not helpful. That does not move the staff forward. But when the family is engaged in the care and they're offering additional supports, they're putting things on the calendar, they're making sure that when they come pick up mom for lunch, it's not during her favorite event. Right. Yeah. And so on the as part of the building community, where the community activities director is pushing all of the events to the folks, and it's reminding them, that's a big thing, to keep attendance up, reminding them your favorite activity is coming up, don't forget to go, and they can RSVP from it and they can request and order services. But it really adds a little bit more of a hospitality feature. Instead of I'm going to this place to be taken care of, instead I'm going into this place and I'm in a community, which is, obviously what we all want as human beings.
Yes, absolutely. Well, gosh, I love how integrated it is. Tell me, what are some features that you're working on that we can anticipate in the next year or two?
Well,
good. You go ahead.
Okay, well, what we're working on and what we've worked on is linking the tablet, the 17-inch touchtone screen in the home, but also we have a app, on the phone that users can use. Take a child, a daughter that's going to work and she wants to check in on mom and make sure that she's okay throughout the day, or she's going out to dinner, or she's going somewhere. It allows them, the app allows them to check in and make sure that she's okay. That it also allows them to look and say, oh, she did take her medicine today, she's having a good day. And it sometimes with sensors, if they have sensors in the activity, they can tell if something has gone wrong. So it really alerts them. And again, the peace of mind is phenomenal to caregivers, because they said, at least I know that I'm connected. And if there is something amiss, they can do a video call and check right in to make sure that they're okay. So, this is a game changer. And what I always say to caregivers and even the aging and health professions, we have to really think differently about care. And one thing that I'm a big advocate of is we don't teach them enough how to be proactive. And take it, for example, if somebody does have a hospitalization, I come from the healthcare industry, and it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They're in and they're out, and you give them a pile of papers and you send them home. And, they're overwhelmed. What you can do with this is load the discharge instructions on the screen so they can be reminded how they can provide and actively participate in their own self-care. What better way of helping that older adult learn how to be more proactive instead of reactive? There's a lot of confusion in the medical industry about different meds. The med reconciliation is not foolproof. So these are tools that the family can use, and it's great to have not just one set of eyes, but 10 sets of eyes, and siblings that live in another state, an opportunity to be involved. So it can help stave off a lot of problems.
I agree completely with that. I'm hoping that we start moving more to the hospital to home, wherever home may be. And in this case, it may be in some sort of transition place, respite care, or some sort of place before they go back to their room in assisted living or wherever they may live. GrandCare can be really helpful during that, as Nora said, with instructions. The discharge instructions can be a video that's placed right on the touchscreen so they can watch it over and over again. Medications, all of the medications that they should be taking, as well as the schedule. But in addition to that, they can be monitoring their vitals. And those vitals can be monitored telehealth vitals, where they take their blood pressure, their weight, their pulse ox, their glucose, whatever they may be taking. And then those can be reported, and a clinical advisor can be monitoring that and actually set up rule sets. Like, I want to know if they've gained 5 pounds in 2 days. That's bad. Or I want to know if their blood pressure systolic is above this, or any of those things.
I want to know, and you may hate me asking this, but how much does it cost, both for an individual and for a community?
Just kidding.
Yeah. Next question. No.
We do. So the pricing varies, but it is much less expensive than people would think. Okay. It is less. The touch screen itself is less than $500, and we do have volume pricing, and we have a hardware as a service based model. So it is. There's a monthly recurring fee, but for the hardware, you basically just pay for the cost of the hardware. And that can be anywhere between $350 to $500. And then the sensors are a la carte. You only pay one time for those, and you can redeploy. So we've had customers that have had the GrandCare system for years, and they bought the hardware once and they use it. It's now same as they would have a smoke detector in the room. They have a GrandCare system in a room, or other assets in the room, and motion sensors or whatever they're utilizing there. And then the monthly fee is actually depending on the volume, anywhere between $15 a month to $20, $25 a month, depending on whether you got one. Now, if you got one system, it's going to be a little bit closer up to retail. But for community providers, it is very reasonable, particularly when you think about, we have recent studies actually that showcase that they were able to reduce caregiving hours by 75%. And that was a Xavier University study on technology in group housing.
Okay. I want to pose a question that Scott just asked. How can it help when a community doesn't allow visitors because of infection control?
Well, that I can start that, and then Nora, you can talk about that too. But what we saw during COVID is some of our communities were utilizing the touchscreens to share information with their residents, how many COVID infections there were in the community. I mean, obviously, it was a very stressful time, not only for the staff, but also for the residents. It's scary. And so they would use it to share information. Here's where we are in our community. Here's where we are in our state. Here's what the regulations are. Here's what you can do. But the ones who had the GrandCare when COVID hit were very fortunate to be able to video chat with their family members and avoid having to, go to windows and just be able to see their family members that way. They used it also in an interesting way. We have a survey on the GrandCare where they can fill out surveys. So that could be patient satisfaction surveys, that could be anything, but they were using it to say, ask 3 basic questions of how are you feeling today? Does your head hurt? These kinds of things, so that they could flag rooms before they left their room in the morning for breakfast, so that they wouldn't, infect other residents. And that was really helpful also to the residents to know that there was this brief survey that was going around, and that would make them, perhaps a little bit safer. But, it's obvious that it would allow, engagement through the touchscreen. Obviously, person-to-person engagement is ideal, but if you can't do that, particularly in senior housing when they weren't allowed to even leave their rooms, which is just devastating.
Yes.
At least they were allowed to message and video chat to one another. We also did see some folks that were doing some WebEx on the GrandCare WebEx and other webinars work on the GrandCare, and they were doing like book clubs and group meetings right on the GrandCare system. So that was handy.
Did you want to answer that as well?
Yeah, I can say personally, going out and during the COVID time, I have clients that still have not come back to their prior level of functioning. I saw a high rate of increased dementia, depression, anxiety, and deaths, because of the social isolation. And if they had this, I have a sister that's in a nursing home, and they had one iPad going around trying to connect with families. So this is, a real game changer. And again, when we talk about costs, this is my pet peeve, is when you look at Medicare, most older adults still think Medicare covers their stay if they have an episode where they need care, and it doesn't. And when you compare the cost of being in an assisted living in our area, it's $14,000 a month. So again, that's where we really need to change the mindset and switch from a proactive to from a reactive to a proactive approach. And GrandCare allows you to do that, and in a relatively easy way, and engage older adults in the technology. It's great to see the difference it made in that 93-year-old and the caregivers that say, oh, it's a game changer, because I questioned if I was doing the right thing by leaving mom home in her own home. I thought maybe, she needed to go to a higher level of care. And her mother said, it's so easy because I like my home and I like to my own things. So those are the benefits.
And, I always like to ask this question, but was there a feature that you implemented that you thought was going to be wildly successful and it just didn't go anywhere?
Well, there's probably several features that were like that no longer are part of the system. I mean, we've had 16 years, but I will say this: we have been fortunate to have some really early visionaries and early adopters that came on board with us in the early days, and so a lot of we didn't do a whole lot of development that was like, let's try this. It was more driven by the needs of our early adopters. So everything we created was to help some sort of need that they had. There were, I would say on the opposite side, there were some things that we added in that we were just shocked at how successful it was or how simple it was. We had a payer, a Medicare Advantage payer that deployed a number of these, 1,000 of them to their members who were isolated during COVID. And so they were, these folks were labeled as hypertension and depression. And so we shipped them all out. And of course, nobody can go into their homes. And so we had to ship these out to 90-something-year-olds. And we had the instructions. It's very simple. You plug it in, you turn it on, it finds your internet, and you're set. We also have a call center.
Very suspicious when people say something's very simple, because something that's simple for me is very different than something that's simple for a 90-something-year-old person. So
yeah, but so we did have 90-year-old something person that did find it simple. And so we, and that's actually part of our advantage of having 16 years in this industry is that we don't have, we're not having, 20, 30-year-old people making the decisions on what's best for our clients. We're having our clients help and support us to decide what is, and when you're talking about simple, I also do think that a lot of folks you're talking about, they come in with all these devices. I think that we need to not underplay how intuitive all of these devices can be. If they've got iPads and all of that stuff, I think that can be complicated as well. Mm-hmm. But our system was not designed for all. It was designed with the older adult population in mind. Mm-hmm. And so when we sent these out to the 90-something-year-olds, we had 4 steps in the instructions, but then we also had a call center that walked them through, and we just they didn't have to pair any devices. This was just the touchscreen for these folks. But what was so interesting about it is we had added streaming radio stations to the touchscreen.
Okay.
And what was interesting about that is how much they loved it, and how much our call center was flooded with calls for them to request us to add new stations to it. And so what we started to think about was maybe during COVID, the thing is, you want that talk radio because it's engaging, right? And you're connecting with somebody else, but also it's localized and it's familiar. And we started thinking like, well, why would that be? And maybe they don't have radio in their home and they were, relying on their cars when they were going somewhere. Well, you're not going somewhere. Maybe that you lose that. So that was a very interesting feature that was a lot more successful than we thought it would be.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, those things are surprising. Well, Dallas, I want to thank you for coming on today. And Laura, when someone wants to get in touch with you and find out more about GrandCare, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, they can certainly go to grandcare.com, and we have a live chat during business hours Central Time. We're headquartered in Wisconsin. I'm in California, but we have headquarters in Wisconsin, and we have a live chat attendant available during business hours, or they can call us 262-338-6147. Or they can find me, Laura Mitchell, on LinkedIn. I'm happy to link in with you, and or sales@grandcare.com. There are several ways that I can give you my address.
Well, what I will do is we will go ahead and rebroadcast this live show. And how about you, Nora?
People can get us at 1-844-633-3852, or they can just go on the web and go to www.everhomecare.com.
Wonderful. everhomecare.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here today, and thank you for sharing your expertise. And for those of you that joined us and commented, we thank you so much for your participation, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next week.